An officer came up and saw the two kids kissing before he turned to the paramedic and asked him and his partner to come inside and check on the parents. The paramedics had managed to wake up Lynn Sr. and Rita. "What's going on?" Lynn Sr. asked, still not fully with it, with his wife in the same boat. When they realized that they were surrounded by paramedics and police, they became fully alert. "Oh my goodness, is my baby okay? Where is he?" Rita explained. "Calm down, ma'am. Your son is fine." Both loud, parents gave sighs of relief at this. "What did that bitch do to my son?" Lynn Sr. demanded. "That's what we would like to know, sir." "Could you tell us how the events unfolded, which resulted in you and your wife being drugged?" a police officer asked. Flashback. Lynn Sr. and Rita had followed their son's wishes and had stayed up. The two were sitting on chairs in the dark near the front window of the dining room, so that if anyone entered, they would see them, but they wouldn't see them. After 12 o'clock had passed, they could hear someone moving around upstairs. After a while, they heard someone coming downstairs rather heavily. Due to their eyes being adjusted to the dark, they could see Luann, dressed as a clown, carrying a limp Lincoln. She placed Lincoln on the floor and headed to their room. Realizing that they weren't there, she tiptoed around to try and find them. When she reached Lincoln, Rita turned on the light and Luann froze like a deer caught in the headlights. She watched as they moved in front of her with stern looks on their faces. Hey, what are you guys doing up this late?" she asked earnestly. "We would ask you the same thing," Lincoln replied. "What are you doing with your brother?" Rita asked. "Oh, I just wanted to be the first to give him his birthday gift," Luann explained. "Luann, turn around and put your hands behind your back," Lindsay ordered. "Well, I should have known that this wouldn't be easy." Pulling the needle out of her pocket, she lunged at her dad in an attempt to jab him with the needle, but he managed to grab her wrist. Luann smirked and went to kick him, only for him to grab her by the ankle. "Idiot," she said, reaching into her other pocket. She grabbed another needle and jabbed it into the arm that was holding her other arm. When Tina let go of her and stumbled about before everything went dark. End of flashback. The officer then turned to Rita. "I take it once your husband was out, you followed the same fate?" he asked. "Yes," she replied. "Okay, then, are you aware of your son having a friend named Paige?" "Yes," Rita replied. But parents not liking where this is going. "Well, it turns out that your daughter kidnapped her and skinned her head. Both parents could barely keep their dinners down after hearing that." "Is she alive?" Continue asked. "Yes, in fact, she was the one who made the call." Both parents were relieved at that before their eyes widened. "What about our other daughters?" "Upstairs," Rita explained before she and her husband raced upstairs with the paramedics and police following. They found that each girl had their heads tilted to the side with a red dot on their necks. The paramedics later said, just like the two parents were, their daughters had been drugged as well, and it would wear off soon. Once it was confirmed that the girls would be fine, Lynn Sr. turned to the officer closest to him and said in the sternest tone possible, "Sir, I do not want that monster ever released. I'm not the one who make that call. However, I do agree with you 100%. The officers then went to examine the crime scene. As Lincoln and Paige re-entered the loud house, they were greeted by an officer. "Hey kids, can we please get an account of what happened here, please?" the officer asked kindly. The two kids nodded and explained to the officer what had happened to them, with Paige starting off. When she was done, Lincoln was about to give his when they heard a loud, "My baby!" The next thing he knew, he was in a bone-crushing hug by his mom, who was now bawling her eyes out. Lynn Sr. had been slightly confused, but when he saw Paige looking perfectly fine, having told that her head had been skinned, but when he saw the beaker of overdrive in his son's hand, he realized what had happened. Walking up to Paige and kneeled down so that he was eye level with her and put his hands on her shoulders. "Paige, I'm going to stop you right there. You don't have to apologize, seeing as you have no idea what that psycho bitch was truly up to, and I pray that she ends up locked up in an insane asylum for this." "Honestly, me too," Lynn Sr. replied. Before he stood up, "Come on, let's go inform your parents that you're okay," he said. Paige nodded and followed him while the officer tried to get Lincoln's account of what happened. It was about 3 a.m. When everyone had finally left. Rita and Lynn Sr. had been informed that a crew would come around tomorrow to examine and dismantle what was left of the death trap. They were also told that Luann would be under constant watch at the hospital, and once she was released from the hospital, she would immediately be escorted to jail where she'll await a trial. Paige's parents had come to pick her up. When they found out what happened, they threatened to sue the Loud family, but a firm protest from Paige eliminated that threat. She had also got her parents to bring over the gift she had gone for Lincoln for his birthday due to Lincoln deciding to cancel his birthday party at Gus's Games and Grub. The two parents were now in the lounge room on the couch with their son, between them, comforting him as the weight of the whole incident finally came crashing down on him. "Can't believe how close we were to losing you," Rita said, as she gently stroked Lincoln's back. "It's a good thing our big man here is strong as strong as he is, otherwise Luann might not have stopped with him." Lynn Sr. said before giving a sigh, "I just feel like I failed as a father and husband because I couldn't stop her." "Honey, don't blame yourself for this. She caught you by surprise. Heck, I thought I had her when I had her pinned down, but she managed to jab me with a needle as well." "I know, but still," he then looked at his wife. "Rita, I truly mean it that I don't want her back in this house." Rita then pulled Lincoln into a hug and held him tightly, while nodding. Somewhere in the very back of her mind, she was being told that it was wrong to disown a child, but common sense overrode that, as she knew that if they did welcome Luann back into their home, most likely they wouldn't live to see the next day. "Well, this is a birthday I'll never forget," Lincoln said, and his parents gave him a tight hug while saying, "Happy birthday, Lincoln. You know, son, everyone has a bad birthday, at least once," the senior said, trying to lighten the mood. "I remember my worst birthday. We were celebrating it at the park. My friends and I were playing baseball, and I was running to catch the ball, wasn't watching where I was going, and ran headfirst into a tree." Rita laughed at that. "And what really made it a bad birthday was that the ball knocked out the beehive, which landed on my head. My dad said my head looked like a red balloon." Rita and Lincoln laughed as they pictured their husband and father with a bee-stung head. Lana was the first out of all the sisters to wake up. First, thanks to an alarm watch that zapped you awake. She wanted to be the first one to wish Lincoln a happy birthday. She got out of bed. She felt very off balance and sluggish. By the time she reached her bedroom door, which was strangely open, she now just felt sluggish. Looking around the hall, she saw everyone's doors were open. Peeking into Lincoln's room, she saw that he was gone. Checking the other rooms, she saw that the only one missing besides Lincoln was Luann. Her sluggishness had completely gone by the time she made it downstairs. Looking in the lounge room, she saw an odd sight. Her parents were asleep. Dad in the recliner and Mom on the couch with a sleeping Lincoln resting with his head in her lap. Walking up to Lincoln, she gently shook him, but when she got no reaction, she grinned. "Okay, Lincoln, it's tickle time." And after only a few seconds of tickling, Lincoln was having a laughing fit. His laughing woke up their parents, who looked exhausted. Realizing where they were, they both gave sad sighs. They had hoped that last night was just a horrible nightmare. "Oh yeah, two can play at that game," Lincoln said, and he began tickling Lana back. The two parents smiled at this. Lincoln then stopped and pulled his giggling sister a hug. "Happy birthday, Lincoln," she giggled out. "Thanks, Lana." It was then he realized that he was downstairs. "Wait, what am I?" He trailed off as he remembered what had happened last night. Getting a sad look on his face, looking at his parents, he saw that they shared the same expression. What's going on? Something bad happened?" Lana asked. "We'll wait for everyone to get up first, and then we'll talk." Her father said in a tone that said, "Don't argue." Lana may only be 6, but judging by how sad Lincoln and her parents were, she knew something really bad had happened. "How are you feeling this morning, you two?" the mother asked. "I feel fine," Lincoln said. It was hard for me to get up this morning, Lana admitted. But otherwise you're not in any pain? Nope, they replied in union, with their mother and father giving a sigh of relief. There wasn't a knock at the door, to which Lynn Sr. got up to answer it. Lincoln and Lana watched their father guide several officers as well as some other people into the kitchen. You two stay here and watch cartoons, their mother said calmly before she got up and followed her husband. One by one, the Lau sisters woke up and made their way downstairs when they saw that Lincoln wasn't in bed. Thankfully, they were all drawn to the sound of the TV being on, and they all gave Lincoln hugs and kisses while also saying happy birthday to him. Even though he was smiling, Luna and Lori could tell that he was forcing a smile on his face. Hey bro, what's the matter? It's your birthday. You should be happy, Luna asked, which got everyone's attention. Just as Lincoln was about to reply, their mother interrupted. Ah, good, you're all up. They all looked at her. Kids, could you all go to Lori and Lenny's room, please? Your father and I will be up in a minute. We have something serious we need to talk about. And she left to go to get her husband. Soon the whole family was up in Lori and Lenny's bedroom. After doing a head count, the parents started. Okay, kids, last night there was an incident involving Luann and your brother and Paige. The two parents informed their children about the events that occurred last night, with Lincoln informing them of the more graphic details as well as the fight he had with Luann. To say the girls were shocked was an understatement. They were absolutely floored. The girls were now all huddled around Lincoln, comforting him. Lynn Sr. gave a sigh. So kids, Luann isn't going to be living here anymore, and your mother and I have agreed to disown her. I say they should lock her in a padded cell and throw away the key, Luna said with her sisters. Either agreeing or voicing their own opinions, their parents not disagreeing. Lincoln then stood up and said, I'll be back, before he left the room. He returned a minute later with his phone and showed them all the pictures he had taken from her sketchbook. His family was absolutely horrified at what every part of the trap would have done to him. My gosh. I saw Luann was a bit unstable, but I never expected her to be like this, Lori said while some of the sisters held Lincoln protectively. Don't worry, bro. Make sure she never lays a hand on you ever again, Luna said, with the rest of her sisters agreeing. Hey, Mom, Lincoln started. Yes, sweetie. Could you cancel my birthday at Gus's games and grow up? I just don't feel it up today. Are you sure? Lincoln nodded. I think I'd just be too much of a downer. Alright, Len, you call the Gus's games and grub and cancel the party. I'll call Lincoln's friends and tell them that the party's off. Rita said. Lynn Sr. nodded and the two left, leaving the girls with her brother. Needless to say, this had been the worst birthday ever for Lincoln. While the part with he and Paige kissing was a bit of a highlight, but his sisters didn't need to know about that just yet. The rest of the day, Lincoln had been in complete and total depression. Nothing anyone could do could get him to smile. Heck, even when he was blowing out the candles on his birthday cake and opening his presents, the family could tell that he was forcing a smile on his face. Once the last present was opened, he looked at his family. Thanks for trying to make this day great for me. His smile finally dropped and he began to tear up. I'm sorry I've been such a downer today, he said. Parents and embraced him from both sides. Girls, I think it would be best if you just go to your rooms for a while your father and I need to talk to your brother, Rita said with absolutely no objection. The girls laughed. Rita and Lynn Sr. pulled up chairs and sat on opposite sides of Lincoln. Sweetie, we know the main reason why you're upset, but we want to know about it has made you upset, Rita asked. I just can't believe she would want to torture and kill me just because I said she wasn't funny. We're also to blame for this, Lynn Sr. started, making his wife and son look at him. If we had stopped her from making these large-scale pranks years ago, this whole event and many others in the past could have been prevented. Why did you let her do all these pranks and then just ground her for a month? I guess that you want us to express ourselves, but shouldn't there be a limit to what we can and can't do, Lincoln said. Yes, and we will begin learning what you kids can do when expressing yourselves, Rita said. I'm also worried that Luann will find some way to break out, and then she'll either come to kill me or everyone. I've spoken with the police and they're taking your sister to a secure mental institution out of town. Once she's released from the hospital, she'll be kept there till the court decide what to do. So honestly, I see that place being her new home after what she tried to do, Lynn Sr. said. Mom, Dad, I'm scared. They both embraced him. Don't worry, sweetheart. We'll make sure Luann never lays a hand on you again, Rita said. Do you think that the rest of my sisters will try to kill me if I make them mad? Rita and Lynn Sr. froze at that while thinking the same thing. Oh gosh. No, Lincoln, your sisters will never try to kill you, no matter how angry you make them, Lynn Sr. said as he rubbed his son's back. Do you think it's bad that I don't love Luann anymore, and I don't think of her as my sister? No, Lincoln, not at all. As we told you before, we've disowned her, so it's perfectly fine that you don't consider her as your sister. Isn't it wrong for a parent to disown a child? I asked the chief of police that when I went down to the station earlier today, and he said that in most cases, yes, but in this particular case, he said that he would have done the same thing. Lincoln was starting to feel a bit better, but the thought that one of his sisters actually tried to kill him kept him feeling uneasy. Gathering up his gifts, he told his parents that he was going to his room and would most likely be up there for the rest of the night. Thursday, he heard his bedroom door close. Rita sent a text to her daughters to meet them in the lounge room. Soon they all gathered. Okay, girls, this whole event has really messed with your brother. To the point that he's worried that if he makes you mad, you might try to kill him as well, Lynn Sr. said, making the girls gasp. So until he recovers fully from this incident, I don't want any of you getting mad at him, even if he breaks or damages something of yours by accident. Rita added. All the girls agreed. The last thing they wanted was their brother thinking that they wanted to keep him as well. When Monday morning rolled around, Lincoln met Paige out the front of the school. She looked just as tired as he was. Hey, Paige. Hey, Lincoln. Take it you haven't got much sleep either. Yeah, I've been having night terrors involving Luann. Same. I still see her standing over me, cutting my skin off. Thanks for giving me that overdrive stuff. I take it you took some as well. Yep, he replied as he lifted up his shirt to reveal that he didn't so much as have a scratch on his side. Well, we better get to class, she said, with Lincoln agreeing, and the two walked in, hand in hand. For the most of the week, Lincoln had been really down and a bit on edge about his sisters, so that only lasted until about Wednesday, as he, as well as Paige, had been constantly having night terrors involving Luann, doing all kinds of horrific things to either them or for Lincoln, his family members. It had gone to the point where they were now afraid to go to sleep. Within the past 4 days, they had only gone about a total of 6 hours of sleep. It was now Friday, and Lincoln was in class trying to stay awake, but with his teachers going on and about some war adds a lack of sleep, and soon he was asleep. Lincoln opened his eyes to see that he was now tied to a chair in the dark room with a spotlight shining on him. More spotlight came on two by two, revealing his family and all weird devices and traps with the final spot light shining on Luann, who is now wearing a ringmaster outfit. It's about time you woke up, Snowflake. If you were out any longer, you would have missed the greatest show on earth, she said. The room then lit up fully as she started strutting over to him. Now that he could see everything fully, he saw that his chair was on a rail that stretched from one side of the room to the other. Now that she was in front of him, she grabbed his chin, kept his head up so she could keep eye contact with him. As you can see, Snowflake, I put everyone in some kind of trap that is ironic to them in a way. Please let them go, Luann. I was the one who said that you were unfunny, not them, Lincoln begged. Oh, I know. This is just my way of getting back at you for having me sent to the loony bin. Pushing his chair forward along the track, she stopped and turned it, allowing Lincoln to see his dad trapped in a large oven, which had been welded shut. Sorry. I think it's time to make some real lasagna, Luann said, and she walked over to the oven. Ignoring Lincoln's protest, they both watched as Lynn Sr. was engulfed in flames. Lincoln felt like he was going to throw up as he saw his father's skin start to melt off. He tried closing his eyes or simply looking, but he found it impossible. All he could do was watch as his father was turned to ashes inside the giant oven. I love my meals well done, Luann said before she walked back over to him and spun around so he was now facing his mother, who was strapped down to a dentist chair. Pulling a remote out of her pocket, Luann pressed a button on it. As the roof opened above, Rita and a huge drill came down, aiming straight at her head. You're always drilling in people's mouths, and I think it's time you had your teeth drilled, Luann said, pressing another button. The drill came to life and kept lowering it. It started drilling into Rita's skull. The drill kept going deeper and deeper until it had gone completely through into the head rest of the seed. Luann kept making the drill lower until Rita's head had been completely obliterated. Looks like she had a bigger cavity than I thought. Well, she ain't getting any deader. Onto the next one. She then shoved his chair to the science spot and stopped it, so now he was in front of Lisa, who was tied and suspended above a glass tank filled with a green liquid. Lisa has always had a thing for science, so I want to see what she thinks of my special acid. Walking up to the tank, she grabbed a chunk of metal off the ground and tossed it into the tank. Lincoln looked in shock as the chunk of metal fully dissolved just before it hit the bottom. That was metal. Now let's see what it does to human. Using an axe, she cut the rope suspending Lisa, causing the 4-year-old genius plunging into the acid. Lincoln watched her give a scream before she was fully dissolved by the acid. And that's an acid burn she'll never forget. Lorenzen turned his chair around, and he saw Lucy strapped down to a table with large circular saws hanging above her. She was visibly shaken in fright as Luann walked over to her. What's the matter, Lucy? You used to love blood and death. You should be happy, Luann taunted. No, I'm not like that anymore. I never want to be like that again. Please don't kill me, Lisa pleaded. Let me think. No. She then pressed a button on the remote, and the saws came to life. 2 came down and cut off her legs. Another came down and sliced her arms. A big saw came down and began swinging back and forth, slicing her torso till it reached just under her ribs. Another saw came down and slowly cut her chest in half before retracting, and the last saw came down, decapitating her. Well, that's quite a buzz cut she got, Luann said, before she walked back over to the now pale Lincoln. On to the next victims, and she gave him another push. This time he stopped in front of a sight that made his heart stop. Lana was now in just her shirt and panties, being suspended by her wrist underneath a large vat that was on stands. A tube was connected to the bottom of the vat, with the other end in Lana's mouth, being held firmly in place with duct tape. I noticed that Lana had such a glutton, especially with mud. The vat is 10 gallons of mud, of which our little tomboy is going to be having. Let's just hope she has the stomach for it. No, Luann, please, not her. Let me take her place, please. I'm begging you. Sorry, you should have thought that before you said I wasn't funny. And with that, she opens the hatch, which caused the mud to flow down straight into Lana's stomach. Lincoln watched as Lana's stomach kept expanding. A very faint pop was heard, and Lana gave a muffled scream. Luann, no, stop this. Lincoln, besides, it'll be over in a few seconds. Lincoln watched as tears poured down Lana's face. No, stop. Lincoln looked around and saw that he was back in his classroom, with everyone looking at him in surprise, and the teacher standing next to him. It was now that he realized that he was hyperventilating, that his heart was racing so fast that he would have a heart attack if it went any faster. Lincoln, are you alright? Miss Johnson asked, realizing that it was just another night terror. He gave a sigh of relief. Did you wake me? Yes, I did, she replied. The song was instantly followed by him clamping his arms around her wrist and thanking her profusely, which surprised her. Lincoln, why don't you go get a drink? Lincoln, Clyde, can you go with him? Miss Johnson asked. Yes, ma'am. Clyde replied, and he helped the shaking Lincoln to the drinking fountain. Okay, buddy, I know you said that you had a family issue on your birthday but you've been a mess all week. What happened? The abridged version, Luann snapped. She tried to kill me and Paige, and now she's in a mental institution, waiting for the trial tomorrow. Clyde was left stunned by this. After taking a few calming breaths, Lincoln headed back to class with Clyde following him, neither boy saying a word. The Loud family, as well as Paige and her family, were now standing on the courthouse steps. Daddy, will Luann be locked away forever? Lola said. We can only hope, he said, getting an annoyed look from his wife. Lincoln was now so tired that Luna was basically curing him. Don't worry, bro. Once this is over, you can rest easy, Luna said. Lincoln just gave a tired groan. In response, Paige was faring no better, now being in a zombie-like state, with her older sister more or less guiding her as her legs moved. Entering the courtroom, the two families could see Luann wearing a white shirt and pants with her hands cuffed together and bandages covering her whole left arm and half of her face. Seeing her family as well as Paige, she gave them the same kind of look she'd given Lincoln when she had completely snapped. This brought the two kids out of their sleep-deprived state. The trial went surprisingly well. The judge was presented with the reports made by the police and paramedics, so the judge and anyone else who saw the picture of the skin Paige either almost threw up or fainted on the spot. Lincoln and Paige told the judge what Luann had done to them, with Lincoln as well as his family going into detail about the kinds of pranks she had pulled in the past as well as how she acted in general. Luna had also presented the judge with Luann's diary, which had markers on the pages that showed a more darker side to Luann. The judge was actually disturbed by some of the entries in the diary. Well, I think I've seen enough to incarcerate this young woman, but before I sentence you, do you have anything to say to yourself? The judge asked. No, not really. However, I do have something to say to Snowflake and his bitch. Luann then turned to Lincoln and Paige while raising her bandaged arm. What doesn't kill you only makes you stronger. Luann, you are sentenced to 12 years minimum at Daisy Hills Mental Institution, the judge ordered. You hear that? You only have got 12 years left to live, Luann said. I said minimum. You could be committed there for the rest of your life, the judge said. Luann frowned at this as the bailiff escorted her away. As soon as I get out, I'll slaughter you all like the pigs you are, she screamed before she disappeared behind the door. The Louds and Paige's family began to leave the doors. The door swung open as Luann came charging and made a beeline straight for Lincoln. Lincoln's eyes widened at this, but just as Luann was about to reach in, she was clotheslined by Luna, who then got on top of her and clamped her hands around her neck. I want you to get this through your sick head, bitch, for what you did to my little brother and Paige. If I ever see you again, I will kill you. Great thing to say in a courtroom, bitch. And don't you mean our little brother? Luann questioned. No, we've all agreed. For what you've done, you are no longer a part of this family, and you are no longer allowed, Luann said. She then got off the surprised Luann, who was then picked up by the bailiff, and as the judge, I declared that what the young lady just said official, and the judge banged his gavel before a now furious Luann was taken away. As the two families left the courtroom, both Lincoln and Paige were hit with the relief that they wouldn't have to worry about that psychopath anymore, and as soon as they had done their seatbelts in their respective families' cars, they fell asleep. Having essentially gone into a coma due to a lack of sleep, Lincoln woke up just past dinner time. He guessed that he had fallen asleep in the car, and his family, most likely Luna and Lenny, had carried him into his room. As he exited his room, he saw Lana exiting Herz with a huge bag full of clothes. Hey Link, did you sleep well? She asked. Yeah, I didn't have any night terrors. That's great to hear, and she gave her brother a hug. So what's with the bag of clothes? Oh well, seeing as how Luann isn't living here anymore, we put her stuff in the attic and I'm moving it in with Luna. Lincoln saw back to everyone swapped room when everyone swapped roommates, and thanks to Lisa's matching-making machine, Luna and Lana got paired together. Well, that's really convenient. You two would make great roommates. Yep. Oh, by the way, your dinner's in the fridge. Better be quick, though. I think Lynn's still hungry. Remembering that they were having meatballs tonight, he looked and saw Lynn sticking her head out of her room. Oh, no, you don't. And he shot forward so fast that the wind he made blew Lana's cap off, while at the same time Lynn shot downstairs. A lot of fighting was heard, followed by silence. About a minute later, a battered Lynn limped upstairs. Gotta hand it to him. He just really wants those meatballs more, she said before limping to her room, collapsing onto her bed. I'll get the overdrive, Lisa said, and she headed to her lab to retrieve said substance. Luann was lying on her bed in her new room/cell, her good hand behind her and her bad arm resting on her stomach with her legs crossed as she stared out of the bared cell window with a grin on her face as the light from the full moon shone on her. And so the final chapter of Luann Last has come to a close, left to rot away in a cell until Lucifer himself comes to drag me away deep into the fiery pits of hell. However, there will be an epilogue of this final chapter, one which will be written in a certain white-haired little boy's blood. She then raised her bandaged hand so it looked like the moon, which her hand changed to Lincoln's head, was resting in her palm. So good night, sleep tight. She clutches her hands to a fist, because I'll kill you in the night. And loud, insane laughter echoed around the mental institution.